happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. You guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely going to want to see this one. As we got that Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino absolutely breaking the internet with this one after exposing the dark truth about the corrupted government agency in this one, guys. I'm excited to get into this one, so now I'm straight into it. All I ask that you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
And there is some drama at the FBI that's going on right now. Apparently, there's an individual who was responsible for the hunting of January 6 political prisoners named Stephen J. Jensen. He was in charge of the Bureau's domestic terrorism operation on the day of January 6th. He played a key role in responding to the attack on the Capitol. He's been promoted in Kash Patel's FBI, and this comes as a massive shock. New assistant director at Kash Patel, named to run the Washington field office, Stephen J. Jensen, who was in charge of the Bureau's domestic operations on January 6th. Jensen is also responsible for establishing a system to monitor incidents of violence at school board meetings across the country, potential acts of domestic terrorism. Oh my goodness. There's testimony here like this from the House testimony of all of these various individuals in charge of the law enforcement response to January 6th. And you can see here that Jensen was asked about saying, I don't give a blank, I don't give an F. These people are GD terrorists. We're going to round them up. This is the quote that's being attributed to Jensen. Looks like here in testimony he denied saying it, but that's what he's on the record saying, according to media reports. So a lot of people are very upset about this. You know, a lot of people saying, what the hell is going on? How could this be true? That Kash Patel is promoting and Dan Bongino are promoting, because the deputy director of the FBI, who's Dan Bongino, is like, he does like, that's where the real grunt work happens. Actually, the deputy director is like where the real work goes down. So how could Dan Bongino be doing that? Obviously, anybody involved in FBI leadership or law enforcement on January 6th is a Fed with knowledge of, and or at the very least, a functional operating capacity to allow that insurrection, to allow it to happen, to frame it as an insurrection, where it was just effectively a peaceful protest that some people rioted during a peaceful protest. That's all January 6th was. And then they hunted down their fellow countrymen. So if you're involved in the highest level of law enforcement on that day, you're complicit, and you most likely created the conditions for the Fedsurrection, which is what I call it, on January 6th. So again, this is my take on this, and why I'm very suspect of anything that, and every person who was involved in that needed to be fired. President Trump, upon entering office, fired every FBI agent and lawyer who was involved in prosecuting J6ers. They're all gone. But again, this is a cause for concern if somebody who's there that day in an FBI capacity, counterterrorism capacity, who wanted to hunt down J6ers is getting promoted. You can see like why people are upset. Well, Dan Bongino dropped this heater today and gave this really remarkable insight into the work that's being done at the FBI. Let's read it, and then I have some commentary on it. Headed back to DC today after spending the day back home with my wife and daughter. As I drive back to work, wow, he drives from Florida. And Dan Bongino lives in Florida, so he drives from Florida to DC. Goodness, that's quite a drive. I want to reassure you that nothing that is happening here is happening by accident. Talking about the FBI. Because of the sensitivity of what the FBI deals with, both the director and I have to be circumspect in what we can make public. Bad guys read this stuff too. Neither one of us came here to play games. Measure us by the results. You will see them, but just because you don't see something happening right this second doesn't mean that it isn't happening. I'll conclude by stating that not everything and every result is going to please everyone. That's just pandering. It's not leadership. Complex problems require diligence and reform-oriented process to create lasting change, or else you simply are putting a bandage on a gushing wound. Let's do this right. God bless America. And those who defend her, and Dan's gone viral with this. It's done millions of views, 65,000 likes, 12,000 reposts. And you can see, of course, right here, some of the first responses is about this Steve Jensen, for instance. This dude set up a system that tracked parents who protested at school board meetings. He called J6ers terrorists. He needs to be fired, not promoted. Okay, so this is obviously part of the reason why Dan is posting this. So let's break down what he's saying here. He's saying, and this has been alluded to by Cash and by Dan before, that there is an enormous amount of work that's going on in a classified setting at the FBI that is not public, that is really making changes. And this is what I've heard and also what I've seen actually firsthand. It is true. They're doing an enormous amount of work, and they're not out tooting they're not out on Fox News every day, right, talking about it. And this is important. Dan Bongino is a very serious person. And he, again, didn't leave his extremely successful show and podcast. You could argue that it's the most successful show in the conservative movement. He didn't leave that just to play games. I'll conclude by stating that not every result is going to please everyone. Complex problems require real solutions in order to fix. He says he wants to do it right. Dan followed up by saying this, as he quote tweets this message, right? I'd like to add this, so this is like a follow-up. Your comments and criticisms are not only welcome, but they're helpful. We work for you, the American people. Your feedback is invaluable. All I ask is that you consider the following feedback to your feedback. When you see something happen and the entire story isn't public, the underlying facts aren't all public, it may appear counterintuitive to our reform agenda. I promise you, it's not an accident. Ask yourself, why would I sign on something like this otherwise? Is it a desire to be wealthy, famous, connected, or future lobbyist? If that sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. Dan Bongino is already very wealthy, and he's already very connected, and he certainly doesn't want to be a lobbyist. I realized when I signed up that I'd never be able to fully explain some of the decisions that we make due to legal and ethical constraints, but that's a pill I agreed to swallow when I swore in. In conclusion, I realized that asking you to trust me is a waste of time. Watch what happens, continue to demand results, be cautious of narrative traps, and let time put the puzzle pieces together, and we'll be doing the will, and what we're doing will make sense. I see and hear your feedback. Thank you for your time. Dan. So these are direct messages from Dan. They're being well received by like Michael Flynn's son, for instance, who's very tied in. Everything is not as it seems. I trust Bongino and Cash. There are so many things happening right now in secret that people are not aware of. The amount of high-profile cases that are being investigated are in the hundreds. I'm telling you this because I know folks. Call me out in a few months if I'm wrong, says Michael Flynn Jr. Strong. Dan Bongino getting a lot of like respect for just straight up explaining these things and doing it in a transparent way, or at least in a way that confronts the criticism online, which is refreshing, actually. Cash and Bongino are going to carry out their operations by the book in a methodical and airtight process. It has to be perfect and cannot risk compromising their plans just to appease people being impatient online. I think there are a lot of impatient people online, quite frankly. So I think this is very good. I think this is like one of the best possible results. I've been critical. I mean, just like this tweet did well. I mean, what is this? This tweet did 1,000 reposts, 4,000 likes. Okay. This is me being critical of staffing decisions or lack of firings at the FBI.
Yo, there we have it, guys. That one coming from our friend Benny Johnson. I'll definitely be sure to leave that original video link down in the description box below for those who want to go over there and check that full thing out. Also, you guys to go over there and show our friend Benny Johnson tons of love and support. He's a great guy. Oh my goodness, guys. Sounds like there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we aren't really privy to, but then again, you don't want to spook who you're going after. Like Bongino said, the bad guys are listening and watching this closer than you'll ever think. But then they go and say that folks are just being impatient online. I mean, rightfully so, though. We've essentially saw folks lose everything, you know, their entire livelihoods behind these false imprisonments. They became political prisoners of the system. And then we haven't seen any sort of prison or jail time come for these rogue or corrupt individuals on the left. We just keep getting a bunch of, just trust me on this, a bunch of promises, investigations. We're seeing the dirt right in front of our eyes. Maybe it's going on behind the scenes. They're trying to really get, solidify their case before they go after these individuals publicly. But I don't know, you guys. Hop in the comment section. Comments are open. Definitely hop in there. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Also, make sure you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you did enjoy more content like this, catch you guys on the next week.